And I was just talking about this with somebody at my work holiday party from England, who's a Man United fan, but when moved to Kansas City, became a big Sporting KC fan. He goes, I would tell people it doesn't matter if you're a soccer fan or not. You have to get to, at the time, what was Sporting Park, because there's nothing like it. And it felt like the place to be, and it felt like a party, and there was good food, and there was atmosphere and everything.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of No Other Pod. I'm Jimmy, along with my good buddy Daniel Kooser. Dan, wearing that Chiefs sweatshirt, and they find ways. It's what, 15 straight single possession wins now, or something like that.
It's a winner's hoodie, my man. It's you do well to count the times. It's a lot easier to count the games this year that they won by more than one score, Yeah. Because I think there's like two of them. What a time.
It's so funny watching people just freak the hell out about the Chiefs, because every time they find a way to win, like it's a block field goal or a field goal that bounces off the post or a fumble inexplicably from the quarterback, like these things that like any given day like shouldn't happen, and yet they somehow keep happening. And it's so funny watching. And like I said, people know on the pod, I'm a Packers fan, but I root for the Chiefs as long as they're not playing the Packers. And I am cracking up watching people just twist themselves into conspiracy theories trying to figure out what's going on with the Chiefs.
The wildest thing is it truly does feel, I was telling Nick this before we started recording, it feels like a freaking movie, dude. It's cinematic. Mm-hmm. Like I was on the edge of my seat for that field goal. I was like, bro, it's a chip shot. Just make it. And I go, oh no, he missed it. Oh no, he made it.
Yeah.
Like it's such a freaking, it's a cinematic adventure. And we don't really get that in sports all the time. And especially when KU broke my little heart earlier in the day by losing to Missouri, I was like, Chiefies, I need you to get it done.
Yeah.
Please do some good here.
KU lost. Bama just missed out on the playoffs, even though it looked like, heading into conference championship week, they were positioned pretty well, but Clemson threw a wrench into everybody's plans. And so
pretty crazy, man.
It was a weird sports weekend. The Packers on Thursday, unfortunately, lost a heartbreaker to the Lions. They had chances. They could have done it, but it was a weird week. I tweeted, or I posted this, I don't know what's called, on Blue Sky, because there's a guy who named Charles, who Forverts. He's kind of well known in football Twitter. It was just so fun because right before the field goal, he posted, "Accept the Chiefs into your heart," and it was a picture of like Emperor Palpatine, just like, you got to do it. His immediate next post, actually, hell no, fuck off with that. I sent that before the kick. This team is walking hand in hand with the devil on a metaphysical blood contract. When the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year, brimstone and flames will erupt from the 50-yard line as we're engulfed, and our new lives as eternal slaves for Lucifer himself will begin.
Oh, good. Okay.
So I just think it's so funny what the Chiefs do to people, because it's like, this is just what's happening. And then you just see how it happens bouncing off the post, and it's like, never mind. This is all a deal with the devil.
You got to acknowledge the people, though, that are actually staying humble and aren't just crazy people right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are actually good people out there that's like, hey, this is sports. It's a children's playground game.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to suffer a little bit through this game. The Chiefs are like the best bad team right now, or the worst good team. I don't even know how to even explain it. Like, if you ever met someone where you're like, you are the dumbest smart person I've ever met. I feel like that sometimes. So it's probably me. Shut your mouth.
No, it's not you. I know. I can think of many people that I feel that well about.
My wife, smartest person I've ever met. And then she'll like run into a door frame. And I'm like, oh, babe.
Like, there's a door there.
Yeah, but she's so smart, dude. But it's like Chiefs is suffrage right now. It's hurting. We are suffering. And it's not easy to watch.
Recognize the plight of Chiefs fans and just, can send their sympathies, because it's real tough being the 2-time defending Super Bowl champion fan base.
I hope we win the Super Bowl.
12-1 or whatever they are.
I hope it just gets wild all through the playoffs, and it's just nonstop weirdness, making deals with the devil bullshit, and we just win the whole thing. I think it would be crazy.
I mean,
how the season's been.
The most Chiefs things, though, would be to keep doing this and then get to the playoffs and just wreck shit and just run through people and suddenly turn it on. And Kelsey has another 500 yards in the playoffs and 5 touchdowns. And then people are like, I don't know what to do anymore.
They got to turn it on. I mean, there's got to be a time. Like, don't go losing on Christmas again. You know, it's time to turn it on against the Browns this weekend. You know, turn it on.
Stupid Jameis. I hate Jameis.
I do too, but his pregame speeches are like, I'm with you, bro. Praise him and all his glory.
I know. It's annoying.
Look at it. I'm like, I'm not a church guy, but hey, I'll go to church with you, James.
I don't know how much churchy Jameis is too. Look into his past. He's got some.
I'm aware of his
transgressions.
There are some situations. But I mean, hey, everyone knows that when you have transgressions, you go find God, all is forgiven. I mean, look at Russell Brand.
That's what they say. Well, I don't know if he's the best example.
But no, he's the best example because he was in a horrible position and now he's doing these talks about like Jesus and stuff.
He's also off his rocker in a lot of ways.
Yes, but it is the example of how people have, been on the verge of cancellation and been like, hey, I'm a Christian now.
He might still be on the verge of cancellation with some of his beliefs, so we'll see. But I don't know.
Or by any means.
It's weird as you take off your Russell Brand t-shirt and you take down your Russell Brand fan club poster for our audio listeners.
Yeah.
No. In terms of soccer, obviously we're going to talk about MLS Cup. MLS Cup happened.
Oh, it was fine.
It was annoying. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
No, first half wasn't annoying. I'll tell you that. First half was great. I mean, it was annoying because you only.
It was kind of. I will say. I told this before we started recording. I did forget that it was on because I know why they do it. It's conference championship Saturday in college football, and so they put it on at like 1 p.m. And I'm just like, I knew it was MLS Cup Saturday, but in my mind, I'm like, oh, it's the championship game for the league. It's going to be on at like 5 p.m. Like that's what it is. That's what happens. And since it's on Apple TV, which again, I love the Apple TV deal for a lot of reasons. I get it. I think it was also on Fox, maybe too, simulcast, but there wasn't a whole lot of like promotion for it. Like you didn't see it anywhere. Even if you're watching like NFL games on Fox, it wasn't like also MLS Cup is on Saturday on Fox. It just kind of was like, just kind of happened.
You know what I feel like MLS is, by the way? I feel like MLS is Bravo Network, and like their fans are so loyal and watch that shit religiously. But anyone outside of Bravo is like, what the fuck's going on over at Bravo?
What are you talking about? And it's like, how does Bravo have like a 47 season show that's like the most watched like non-broadcast channel? But
I watch a couple things over there.
See,
I know,
found you.
But this is perfect, by the way. Let me paint the picture for the podcast. I fell asleep in the second half. You didn't watch the first half. We have a full game put together right here, dude.
I did. I was grocery shopping because I was going to a work Christmas party that night. And so I was like, I got to get my white elephant gift. Which killed, by the way. And
good gift.
We do goofy gifts. And I was giving the person a hard time who set up, because originally the party was supposed to be Friday, December 6th. And then, long story short, she had to reschedule it to December 7th. This was like a month and a half ago. And I was like, oh, so it's a Pearl Harbor party now. December 7th, the day that'll live in infamy. And so the whole time I'm just giving her crap. I'm like, this is the Pearl Harbor Remembrance Party. So I went to 4 different stores and I found a special edition Pearl Harbor DVD set. And so my white elephant gift was Pearl Harbor on DVD box set.
And she probably knew you were the one who brought it.
Well, yeah, it ended up being the last gift that somebody picked, but people lost it when they opened it. And they're like, God damn it. I was like,
so like Blu-ray and shit?
No, it's DVD. So good luck watching it. Where are you going to find Pearl Harbor on Blu-ray box set? I was hard enough finding a DVD. I went to Best Buy.
Okay, man.
Went to Best Buy. Didn't think about it, but Best Buy doesn't sell physical movies anymore.
Not anymore.
They have some physical games, but no more. There's no movie section in Best Buy.
I'm shocked that Best Buy is still around, by the way. And I love Best Buy. I love going in. The atmosphere makes me comfortable. Makes me have to use the bathroom, if I'm being honest. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
I think it's the electronics. It messes with my tum-tum.
You know what I don't like about Best Buy? I get what they're trying to do, but you walk into a Best Buy and you take half a step in and they're like, hello, can we help you find something? And I'm like, no, I'm okay. Like, even if I don't know what I'm looking for or where I'm going to find it, like this time I walked in and I was like, I got to figure out where the movie section is. It's like, hey, can we help you find something? Like, no, it's okay. I know I'm going. And then I proceed to wander around Best Buy being like, is there no movie section anymore? But I could have saved all sorts of time had I just told him, hey, where are your movies? And he'd be like, we don't have any. I'm like, okay, bye.
People are triggered by that shit, dude. When I worked, I sold appliances at Sears. Pretty great money, by the way, full commission. I would just greet people. I wouldn't say, hey, can I help you find anything? I would just say, hey, how you doing today?
Mm-hmm.
And I had one person be like, oh, I'm fine. Nope, I'm just looking, thanks. And I go, just asking how you're doing.
Yeah.
I made him feel stupid. I was like, just being friendly.
I did appreciate when I moved into my new house and I had to buy a washer dryer and such. I had done some research, so I kind of knew what I was looking for. And I'd already basically picked out what I was going to buy before I went into Nebraska Furniture Mart. So I'm walking around and I'm looking at what I want. And then, you know, eventually he didn't come up to me right away, but a guy comes up to me. He's like, hey, can I help you find something? I was like, I actually think, yeah, I'm going to buy this. You know, I've done my research. Like, this is what I want. I know this is on sale, blah, blah, blah. And he goes,
Best sale that guy's ever made.
He was like, I actually really appreciate knowing exactly what you want coming in here. And he goes, you don't know how many times where people come in here and they have done zero research, don't know anything. And they basically just they want you to explain everything about appliances to them. And you're like, I mean,
that's the job.
I can try, but there are so many nuances and differences and things about, like, you might like this if you like this, but you might like this if you like that. And it depends on what your house setup is. And so
That's called being a salesman. What's he complaining about not doing his job?
I think he just liked that I was like, you're about to get commission and had to do zero work other than I told you exactly what I want. I know the price I'm going to pay and you just got to sign the paper.
That's why he loved it. He's like, oh, easy money right here. You're getting a full kitchen of LG appliances. All right, let's go.
But yes, I did. I was out shopping and my brother texted me and he goes, rest in peace, Red Bulls. And I was like, oh, shit. I forgot.
Oh, that thing that I do a podcast for.
And I looked at the score and I saw it was 2-0. And I was like, damn it. And he goes, there were two very stupid goals. And I was like, okay. So I went back and I rewound it and I ended up watching the second half. And yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it. We can probably hit our break here in a second. We'll talk about it. But it was very frustrating. And now the stupid Galaxy, even without their best player, get a 6th star. And they're already talking dynasty. And I'm just like, shut up. Nobody cares. So
nobody cares.
I feel bad for the Red Bulls. I mean, always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
Pretty much.
Never happens for them.
Yeah.
So, well, let's take our break here real quick. We'll come back. We'll talk some Sporting KC news, and then we'll hit MLS Cup. But we'll be right back.
Looking for tickets for your next event? Tickets for Less is your #1 source. Save big on every purchase when you use promo code KCSN at ticketsforless.com.
Man, it was a bad weekend for me, buddy. I know you've been eating better, right? You've been doing good things.
Not in the last couple of weeks with the holidays and leftovers and such. But trying, yes.
A couple of weeks have been real bad. My stomach's very upset with me. I'm just feeling bloated, bro. How do we let the holidays do this to us?
Yeah.
I'll never understand.
I was yesterday, or we're recording this Monday, so Sunday, I had a bottle of champagne that someone had given me that I was like, I'm just going to have some apple cider mimosas. So over the course of the day, I just drank some mimosas and ended up drinking a whole bottle of champagne.
Whoa, were you buzzed yesterday?
A little bit. It takes a lot to get me. And this was over the course of like 5 hours. So it wasn't like I'm, throwing down a bottle of champagne in the course of
You're having a fine Sunday though.
But I'm watching football, I'm drinking my apple cider mimosas, and then I had a leftover pumpkin spice nothing bundt cake from the work holiday party that I had later in the day. And so I was just, snacking and eating on some things. And by the end of the day, my stomach was like, what the hell did you do? Like, you cannot do this. And I haven't been eating like that. So it was just like, and I haven't really been drinking alcohol that much unless I go out for a special occasion because I'm trying to, eat better. So my stomach was all sorts of twisted, but
and you got to just get back on it come Monday, And my thing is sports, bro. When sports are around, I'm going to grab a salty snack. And
there's something about it.
There's a game on like every other day that I care about, whether it's KU basketball or Chiefs or soccer. I'm like,
I need a dip of some sorts.
I need to reel it in, bro.
I need something. Well, the other thing too, it's my guilty pleasure, big baking competition guy. So right. I like watching Holiday Baking Championship, and I've been watching the Wizards of Baking on Max. And so anytime I'm watching one of these shows, I'm like, well, I need to have some sort of baked good while I'm watching this because they're making these delicious things that make me want a baked item. So that's when I ate my nothing bundt cake, was while I'm watching Wizards of Baking. And then by the time it was done, I was like, I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Oh my gosh. it's a struggle, bro. Like some people struggle with working out. They're like, yeah, I can eat healthy, but I just can't get in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I can get in the gym all damn day. That's not my problem. But mine is the food.
I love food.
And you can't out exercise a bad diet because I'm trying. I'm
hard.
Giving it my best shot.
Yeah. It's easier to eat healthy. You're still not going to be fit, but it's easier to eat healthy if you work out less and still at least appear healthier and fit. I mean, you should still work out because there's no supplement for getting physical exercise. But it's easier to do that and at least appear healthy than it is to eat like shit and try to outwork it, because
it's true, man.
You can't. You eat 4 bites of something sweet and it's like 1,200 calories, and then you got to go work out for like 4 hours to burn that off.
I've got personal training clients that have no business knowing how I eat.
Mm-hmm.
I need to get that under wraps there.
Yeah, it's tough. Anyway, let's talk a little bit of the Sporting KC news that we have first, and then we'll hit back at MLS Cup. I guess one thing that's worth noting is tomorrow, Tuesday, or today, I guess, if you're listening, we're recording this on Monday. So if you're listening on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Central Time on the CONCACAF YouTube channel, the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup draw. And so Sporting KC will know officially what our path to the 2025 CONCACAF Champions Cup will look like. It's a little weird because there's no more groups anymore. It's just a straight knockout tournament, except all but the final are home and away. So we're going to play a team in a home and away round 1 match, February 4th through 6th. This is the first week. That'll probably be away for us, so we don't play early February in Kansas. And then, there will be sometime between February 18th and February 27th, the second match, probably here in Kansas City. So, I mean, as soon as today, if you're listening on Tuesday, we're going to know who Sporting KC's very first competitive match of the year is against. And there's some heavy hitters in here. So it's going to be a tough competition. Mm-hmm. So looking forward to, are there, of all the teams, I don't know if you have the list of teams in front of you. It's okay if you don't, but obviously there's Chivas Guadalajara in Monterrey, and Club America, Cruz Azul, Tigres, like all these big time Mexican clubs. Is there one who like you'd be like, oh, I'd be interested to see Sporting play? I mean, we've played Chivas before, we've played Monterrey before, we've played America, Cruz. So I mean, we've played these teams before, but is there one where you'd be like, oh, that'd be fun to see that matchup?
I mean, dude, I'm not feeling like much is going to be fun because I don't feel like we're in a good position to be going into this kind of competition.
Yeah.
So none of it sounds like a fun time to me right now.
Yeah.
I see what kind of product we're ushering out there so we don't get steamrolled.
Yeah.
It's a bad year. And we're talking about like, hey, we made CONCACAF. And it's like, how?
We backed into it.
We did. We were runners up in US Open Cup, which is just crazy. So it's very underwhelming to be a part of this after the tragedy of a year that we had.
Yeah. The teams I can guarantee we will not play, because there are 5 teams that have a first round bye. Columbus Crew, because they won Leagues Cup. Galaxy, because they won MLS Cup. Club America, because they were the best performing Liga MX champion. Cavalier FC, because they were the Caribbean Cup champion. And, oh goodness, Alajuelense, because they were the Central American Cup champion. So they all have first round byes. So, but I mean, that still leaves Chivas, leaves Monterrey, Cruz Azul, Pumas, Tigres. I don't know. Have we played Tigres? I don't recall if we've played Tigres.
I mean, who have we played at our place?
I'm pretty sure we've played. I know we've played Chivas a couple times. I know we've played Monterrey. Pretty sure we've played Club America. I don't recall if we played Cruz Azul. I don't think we've played Pumas.
And Toluca, right?
Toluca, yeah. But I mean, Tigres.
Have we played Cruz Azul?
I think we played Cruz Azul.
14.
I want to say we played Cruz Azul.
Yeah.
But Tigres, I mean, that's a big time Mexican team. So if you're looking just for brands to see, that would be a fun one. Pumas is pretty big too. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. But
yeah,
we'll see. There's, like I said, 6 p.m. Tuesday. It's probably going to be weird and over dramatic, because everything CONCACAF does is weird and over dramatic. So
true.
And other bits of sporting news, they announced this Monday morning, along with the other MLS Business Awards is Sporting KC President and CEO Jake Reed was named Major League Soccer's Executive of the Year. Now, before we get into this, I want to make very clear, this does not have anything to do with on-field results, and Jake Reed is not responsible or has no hand in the technical on-field side of Sporting Kansas City. He is a business guy. That is business and money. He is not doing anything with scouting or roster construction or anything.
Leadership, hospitality, portfolio investment stuff. You know what I mean? It's
right.
There is a weird feeling. If you don't know like what this man does, or if you don't know anything about how the thing works, there's a sense of being like, executive of the year, tell me fucking how.
Right. Because Elliot, like, sporting director, I think, won the actual like sporting executive of the year,
and that makes sense. We get that, but this is different. I mean, this Jake Reed helped bring one hell of a game to Arrowhead Stadium. That was a big deal. You know, that brought in a bunch of money. So, good for him, man. If he's winning this kind of shit, it's good to have him as part of our club. You know.
Yeah. Now, I do think there is, and this is anecdotal, I think there is still some people who feel a little funny about this because, as we've talked about before, the whole premise of Sporting KC's rebrand back in the day was, we are not going to focus on appealing to soccer fans. We're going to focus on appealing to Kansas City fans. And I was just talking about this with somebody at my work holiday party from England, who's a Man United fan, but when moved to Kansas City, became a big Sporting KC fan. He goes, I would tell people it doesn't matter if you're a soccer fan or not. You have to get to, at the time, what was Sporting Park, because there's nothing like it. And it felt like the place to be, and it felt like a party, and there was good food, and there was atmosphere and everything. I do think there is something to be said for, it feels like the environment and that vibe of like, hey, this is a place celebrating everything Kansas City is gone. Some of that is business decisions. Now it probably did drive a better bottom line. I'm sure that's why it's the Anheuser-Busch or whatever it's called members club now instead of the Boulevard members club. I get that there's money behind this, but I do think that there is still a contingent of people who understand that this is not an on-field award, who are like, I get it, but also the vibes around the club, even in sort of the game day atmosphere and off-field experiences and stuff, don't feel like they once were. And maybe that's where some of this dissonance comes between how ownership and the business executives are looking at things, because they're winning awards, maybe deservedly so, and making money. And yet the fans here are saying, well, the product on the field's not good. The environment around everything else doesn't feel like it used to. And so it just feels like there's a little bit of a disconnect that I think the club's trying to address. I'm not going to sit here and just shit on the club. I mean, they put the new light show in. I think that was a positive step in toward game day atmosphere. They're trying things, but I don't know. I just think it optically, it's a tough thing to sort of try to explain to the fan base, given the feeling.
Well, but there are certain things. I mean, they had a little write up here, man. In addition to that Arrowhead match, I mean, it also has to do with like bringing different events to Children's Mercy Park. I mean, right. KU played 2 games there. That was a pretty big deal. They had a Copa America match, first ever one in Kansas City.
Right.
And the LED lights from the light show to like the lighting board,
they're cool.
Those have been a pretty dope upgrade, and that video board in general being bigger in the south end.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very cool place to be. It's unfortunate that the team was not so hot, and maybe there's better things to come. Sporting KC's never won this award before, so that's kind of neat as well.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I'm not sitting here saying Jake's not deserving. I mean, he's part of the group that helped bring the World Cup to Kansas City, which maybe wasn't necessarily this year, but I mean, it all is a consideration. It's just
he's part of the what's that team called that he's a part of?
The KC 2026 Board of Directors.
Yes, there you go.
Vice president of that. So
isn't he also part of like some Kansas City sports thing in general?
Sports Commission.
Yes.
Yeah, probably. So, and they moved into a brand new downtown office, which again doesn't impact the average Sporting KC fan, but is a big endeavor.
It won best office space of the year from that one outlet.
So I get it. I also get some of the Sporting KC fans who are like, I don't know. Still kind of funny. It's a weird thing. Congrats to him. You know, he's always been very kind to us when we've ever interacted with him. We haven't interacted with him a ton, but he's always been. Maybe we'll try to get him on and interview him at some point. We've never done that. I think that would be something that we could try to do.
It's a lot more. That sounds more nerve-wracking than having Peter Vermees on here or Graham Zusi when he was like, "Surely you haven't had Kitman on before me," and we had to say, "Yes, we did."
That was funny. You think you'd be more nervous interviewing Jake Reed than you would Peter Vermees?
I think so. I mean, dude, I asked Peter about his little slip and slide fall at that one game. That was ballsy. That took a lot of cojones on my part.
Well, and he had a great answer.
Great answer. He goes, it's actually very simple. Simple serious.
Broke it down analytics. Like,
yes. Very simple story. Let me tell you. You saw how fast I got up, right? Because I'm, basically he's a fifth son of a bitch.
No, the first time it's not the first time, but one of the last times I interacted with Jake, there's been a handful since then, but it was the first time in a while, and I didn't have any reason to know that or believe that he knew who I was. It was at the first game in St. Louis, and I went to the Cauldron tailgate, and I was hanging out with a couple people, and Jake, to his credit, was there walking around with the fans, interacting with people and everything. And he comes up to our group. I think it was myself. I want to say Daniel Sperry was there, a couple other people. And I have no reason to think he knows who I am. So I reached my hand out. Jake, nice to meet you. Jimmy Mack. He goes, I know who you are.
Why'd you say it like that?
I know. I was like, and immediately I'm like, Rolodex in my mind of like, shit, what have I said? And I was like, I don't think I've said anything bad about Jake. I hope not. But I'm like, it was just like that he said it in a way that I was like, oh God. But again, whenever we've interacted, he's nothing but very nice and professional. It was just funny because I was like,
I know who you are. I'm just let you off.
I forget sometimes. Our friend of the show, Jacob Peterson, I know he listens, relatively often. And, sometimes I'll see him at the game and he'll come up and say something. I'm like, I forget that people in the club actually listen to what we say. So
pretty wild here. I think we're just doing a pretty stupid thing, but it's not that stupid.
No, it's kind of funny. But speaking of on field, these aren't the designated player signings that people have been hoping for, but we do have two brand new signings for Sporting Kansas City to talk about.
Hey-o.
And one of them I'm a little bit more excited about than the other because I think there's a lot of potential here. But Sporting Kansas City has signed two new homegrown players, 16-year-old defender Ian James and 16-year-old goalkeeper Jack Courtcamp.
These are the fourth and fifth youngest signings in Sporting KC history.
Mm-hmm. Pretty cool. What's actually funny is Jack Courtcamp and Ozzy Cisneros are tied for the fifth youngest to the day. They were both 16 years and 313 days old when they signed their first professional contracts, which is kind of crazy.
That is wild.
Gianluca Buzio is still the youngest, 15 years and 89 days, which is insane. He was 3 months off of being 14 years old when he signed a professional contract.
Is Buzio the best thing to ever come out of that academy?
Yeah,
that's probably.
Without question.
It's pretty wild.
But both players have signed MLS contracts through 2027 with club options for 28 and 29. They're the 20th and 21st homegrown players. So that's a 3-year contract they've signed.
Pretty big lockup, dude, for a young kid.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure they're making the minimum, but still,
I'm
16 years old. Somebody starts giving me $90,000 a year. That's not bad.
Minimum is more than a lot of us make right now. So where do we?
Right. You probably still living at your parents' house, and somebody's now giving you after taxes like $55,000-$60,000, and you got nothing to no expenses.
You just pocket it. You pocket it so you can buy a house when you're old enough. You know what I mean?
Hopefully you have smart people who are helping you figure out what to do with that money and buy a sensible car if you need one. But find some investments and put it into some index funds. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I don't. But
well, you said you were excited about one of these more than the other. Who's that?
Ian James. This defender, the center back, Ian James. I want to say he's 6'2" already. He's been in the U up to the U19 level.
They both have experience on youth national team.
I just think that Courtcamp, he might be the goalkeeper of the future. I don't know, but goalkeepers that's going to be more of a journey. Pulskamp is probably the number one this year, and Pulskamp's still relatively young. If he grabs hold of that position, that could be his for the next 10 years. Who knows? But
those were Minnesota kids, by the way. Like we acquired their rights from Minnesota for them to come be in our academy.
Oh, that's right. I'm reading. I forgot about that. That's true.
Wow.
But he played 10 matches for MLS Next Pro Sporting KC2, which is again a higher level than even just the academy. I just think that with center back being such a position of need, and Fernandez only being guaranteed through this year, like that's especially if you're 6'2" already at 16 years old, and he already looks like he's relatively strong. He's going to fill out, develop more muscle as he gets older. That's a guy who I could see if he develops along the trajectory that he's started to show, could be a lockdown center back in the future.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get big too. It's one thing to be tall, but you can be tall and weak as hell. Yeah. So I mean, but also a young kid, you also got to be careful about getting in the weight room. I mean, you can't push something too hard because your body's still growing and stuff like that. So
right.
It'll be interesting to see what happens, man. These are good little pickups. They'll probably mostly be utilized for SKC2 and maybe a call up to the big team every now and then.
Court camp in particular. I mean, I would guess maybe we see James in maybe a Champions Cup match. I doubt it even then, though. Maybe U.S. Open Cup if we're in that again. I don't even remember if we're in Open Cup next year or not, but I don't think they said who's in Open Cup. Well, Don Garber said more teams will be in it next year, but I don't think we know which teams yet.
MLS is a wild ride. Just hang on to anything, and here we go.
But court camp is almost certainly going to be with SKC2. I don't even know if he'll be the number one for SKC2, but I mean, Pulse camp's going to be almost certainly the number one for the senior team, and they've already said they're still trying to find another keeper that will probably be the primary backup for Pulse camp. So, or at least compete with Pulse camp.
This is cool, man, because we haven't had any news like this since 2021. Where they actually signed a handful of players, and that was Grayson Barber, Ozzy Cisneros, Brooks Thompson, Kave Rod, Caden Pierre, and Jake Davis. And a good handful of those names, those names.
Yeah, well,
there's you know Jake Davis, Caden Pierre, Ozzy for a little bit,
Jake is the one that obviously panned out. Caden, I feel bad for. I mean, with injuries, you don't know what could have happened, and obviously he's since moved on and has transferred to the Belgian club, I think. So good for him. But I mean, you can look at some of these homegrown signings, and I'm not claiming that they are easy to nail down, but there are more misses than there are hits here. And it's not particularly close. Kave Rad, Brooks Thompson, Ozzy Cisneros, Grayson Barber, Wilson Harris, Felipe Hernandez was good, but then we all know. So it's
Wilson Harris, the 2020 year, man. Wilson Harris could have been something. Like he showed some excitement.
Yeah, and it just didn't work out. I mean, you really have to go back to 2017, and that's when you had Buzio and Jalen Lindsay. Those were both pretty good. And then obviously the year before that was Daniel Shallowy, EPB. He was great until he left. Kevin Ellis was a very solid contributor for many years. Across a number of different positions, and then John Kempen obviously also. So early on, the academy looked like it was very strong, and then it's been hit and miss for the last 10 years. So,
exactly.
But I don't know. Well, let's talk about this stupid MLS Cup game if we must.
Sure. I mean it's a game of two halves, man. Mm-hmm. Second half was just a lot of defense on Galaxy's part, and first half had some goals.
Yeah, and it was interesting because I was curious to see how the Galaxy would line up, because we knew that Ricky Puig wasn't going to be able to play because...
Oh, were you curious to see if they would raise Ricky's jersey every time they scored a goal? They went and got his jersey from someone and held it up like he had died. I was like, he's over there. In fact, looking like the cleanest motherfucker in the stadium.
He's got a badass suit on.
Dressed to the nines. And then he's being pushed around at the end of the game in like a trash can.
He's got a piggyback ride on the field.
Didn't he have freaking surgery? And he's like bouncing around. I'm like, is that how people are after surgery? Don't they need to rest?
Well, you would think. But I mean, these people have access to wildly different surgeries than you and I have access to.
I guess I fully expect to have hip replacements and be good to go within a week like this. Let's get going, man.
Yeah, it was interesting because I mean, we talked about last week when they played a middling St. Louis City team without Ricky Puig. didn't do all that well. And I'm sitting here thinking, well, they just signed Marco Reus. He's, one of the better attacking midfielders that we've seen in recent history from the Bundesliga.
Barely played, man.
Surely Marco Reus is going to step in for Ricky Puig. No, he's on the bench. He's just hanging out.
Just getting a trophy by being on the bench. Like, this man is a world-class player. And he was on the bench here.
It's the same thing that LAFC did with friggin' Gareth Bale. They're like, oh, we're bored. Let's just sign you.
Yeah.
You're a little older. Come over here. Here's some money. You want to win a trophy? Why not? I guess.
We don't get to do that in Kansas City. We don't get that stuff, dude. They had a Diego Fagundes who's been searching for MLS Cup for years, bro. And he comes in the 78th minute and gets his trophy. Like, good for the Galaxy, but god dang, 6 trophies, dude. This sucks.
It's, and what's interesting is statistically, now this, you can talk about game states and everything. My dog is being wild. You can talk about like game states and everything. And so, but if you look at the statistical breakdown, this was a pretty even game. I mean, 55 to 45 possession actually in favor of the Red Bulls, but again, makes sense because of game state at the end. 12 to 12 on shots, 5 on goal for the Red Bulls, 6 on goal for LA Galaxy. Whoopsies. XG 1.3 to 1, like up overall pretty even match. The Red Bulls defense just forgot how to play soccer in the 9th minute when Paintsil just runs past everybody and has a little tap in after a gorgeous little assist. And, once he got sent through there by, I think it was Brugman who sent the assist through, that made it difficult. And then like 4 minutes later, Jovic, who's a very good player, just gets the ball near midfield, runs almost the entire length of the field himself and does a stupid little fall down tap in. And once it was 2-0 in the 13th minute, he's somersaulting all over the place and it felt over. They almost scored a 3rd and 4th goal like 4 minutes later. They sent one off the bar, and then I want to say it was Jovic again who, loose ball in the box, just sent one just right of the post. It could have been 4-0 in the first 22 minutes.
Yeah, man.
But
it could have been. I was a little nervous when they got their 2 right out the gate like that, like two goals in 13 minutes. I was like, oh boy, is this how it's going to go? And then as the half went on, I was like, listen, if Red Bulls can pull one back here, they got a shot. Mm-hmm. And they did in the 28th minute. And then nothing else happened.
They did. It was off a set piece. Forsberg sent one in, the ball's bouncing around. And, hey, credit to Nealis. He just, this lanky ass motherfucker, just gets the ball in the middle of the box and looks like a goddamn giraffe, somehow brings it down and sends it into the back of the net. I think the only person I've ever seen look more lanky than Sean Nealis is Peter Crouch, who I don't know if you remember him from, his English Premier League days, but he was the striker who I want to say was like 6'8" and literally looked like he was a giraffe. But at least they made it a game, so you could watch.
It wasn't a blowout.
Yeah,
it was fine. I just felt really weird. They dedicated MLS Cup to Ricky Puig, and I feel
he's right there.
Yeah, I'm like, what about everyone else though that like was on the team? Ricky didn't just win the league like by himself.
Let me ask you this, because I struggle with this. I've never been and will never be in this position, obviously, but obviously the Galaxy would not be where they were at without Ricky Puig. Like he was got the assist that gave him the go ahead goal in the Western Conference Final. It sent them to MLS Cup even after he tore his ACL. But how do you think it feels to win? You have a ring. You've won MLS Cup. You're the best player on your team, but to sit there and know, but I didn't get to do anything in that game. Like, obviously you're still happy and such, but do you think it's a little bittersweet? And do you really feel like it's yours if you didn't get to play in that final? I'm not saying he shouldn't. I'm just thinking about how I would feel if I'm like, I know I'm good enough. I should have been playing in this game. It's out of my control, but I feel like I want to win a cup where I actually played in the game.
I don't think I would feel like that. And I'm gonna compare this to theater real quick.
Okay.
I've had many lead roles in musicals and plays and stuff, and there is a really cool feeling of parts where you sit back and get to see someone else shine. Okay. It's a cool feeling, and I think in sports it's kind of like that as well. It's like, yeah, he didn't it's not like he's on the sideline being like, oh, guess I wasn't needed to win this game. No, he's like, oh, I'm not needed. We have a great team, and I was not necessary here. And that's pretty great that I'm a part of this great team.
Sure. Well, and like I said, I mean, it's very clear that they probably wouldn't have been in MLS Cup had he not been a part of the team. He was a very huge part of their season leading up to MLS Cup. I don't know. I think it's a maybe I got to talk to my therapist about it, but it's just a personal thing with me of like, if I don't get to be a part of it, I just feel like, it's like, I'm still happy, but like, I wish I could play in it. Like
it sure does.
The same thing. Like if, a key player got injured headed into the Super Bowl. And like Carson Wentz for the Eagles, he had his MVP season that year, and then suddenly he gets the Super Bowl ring, but he's watching Nick Foles out there do it, and you're like, that's cool, and I'm happy, but also I kind of wish it was me.
I feel that, yeah, it makes sense, but I mean, it's just to have a good team overall that was able to get it done without him. They overcame the adversity that was up against them, and Ricky was probably on so many drugs, dude, pain pills, trying to feel better. So
yeah. Have you ever had to have a Toradol injection, like the shit that they give NFL players at halftime when they're all falling apart?
You said cortisone? What'd you say?
Toradol?
No.
I had one time. It's like an instant painkiller.
Wow.
And they give you a shot basically in your hip. And wherever you're feeling pain for like the next 8 hours, it's just gone. It's wild.
Just for 8 hours?
It's like a short-term thing. But that's why, like, if there's like somebody, like if Mahomes, I'm not going to put that out there. If somebody else, if Josh Allen twists his ankle in a playoff game, and he gets to halftime and he's limping around, but he's like, I got to play. Sure as hell, they're putting a Toradol shot in him, and his ankle's still going to swell and it's still going to suck after that. But for 8 hours or so, it's going to be a hell of a lot less painful. So it's like a short-term thing. Now you can actually make it worse if you continue to injure it. You just won't feel the pain. But that's where I'm curious if even for game day, so we could celebrate, if they're like, Ricky, we'll just give you a little vitamin T and you need to run around.
For some vitamin THC, as it is also legal in LA. So
yeah,
there you go.
Let's see here. The only other couple things I was going to talk about is Matthew Doyle, who we've tried to get on the pod before. It didn't work out scheduling wise. Maybe this offseason we'll get him on and talk about what Sporting KC needs to do. He put out what he admits is a very good clickbait article where he was like the 5 way too early contenders for 2025. And surprise, the 5 teams he put are LA Galaxy, the Columbus Crew, LAFC, FC Cincinnati, and Inter Miami. Like 5 very good teams. I don't think anybody's surprised there. The one though that he put like as a dark horse, I think is a little interesting, is he said the Houston Dynamo as a dark horse contender for MLS Cup 2025. So I don't really know what my question is here. I mean, other than they're getting rid of Hector Herrera. That's a pretty big departure. They have a couple other players that really aren't up to championship caliber. I don't know if I would consider the Houston Dynamo a dark horse contender, and I think it's hard to know if there really are any dark horse contenders this far out. But I don't know. Is there a team for you as a way too early team who, if you're looking, and again, with the caveat that we have no idea what sort of rosters these teams will have, but maybe you're not predicting as like a dark horse contender, but you're like, seems like it might be reasonable and it'd be cool if they won. And I'm going to discount Sporting KC because obviously that would be our answer if we could choose. But is there like another MLS team you'd be like, you know what, if they got one, and I think maybe if they put the pieces together, it'd be kind of fun to see them make a run?
A dark horse team?
Yeah. Like not like, don't pick like Miami. But like for me, like again, if they got a couple pieces and they things broke their way, like Minnesota. Like they're one who like nobody really ever considers, but like it'd be kind of fun if I could see Minnesota make a run if it couldn't be Sporting KC. And I think if they, they're a good team, they're a few pieces away, and if they could get the right pieces, I think they're a reasonable team that could take a step in 2025.
I could get on board with Minnesota. I think Seattle's going to continue to be decent.
They're always somehow they just keep reloading.
Orlando could get better, as they have gotten better year over year.
Mm-hmm.
Made it further. So I think let's look at the freaking conference finals, man. the LA, New York, Orlando, Seattle, like it's just that makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, and Atlanta is one too, where like it feels weird calling them a dark horse because they had been so good for so long, but with their front office shakeups and coaching shakeups and stuff, you put they made a run. They beat Miami. You put a couple of pieces in place, and Atlanta could be closer to the Atlanta of 2017, 2018 than they were last year. So, but
true.
The only other real thing I was going to mention was we talked about CONCACAF Champions Cup, but we also got the draws for the FIFA World Cup, FIFA Club World Cup. There we go. And there are some MLS teams that are taking place, in the Club World Cup. Inter Miami, because they changed the rules for them and decided that they were going to be in the Club World Cup, even though they didn't actually earn it because they had to change the rules to get them in. But then the Seattle Sounders are also in the Club World Cup. And it's just weird because you look at the group that the Seattle Sounders are in. So it's Seattle, Botafogo, which is a pretty big Brazilian team. They're probably not a household name, but it's a pretty good club. And then Atletico Madrid and Paris Saint-Germain. And I just am like, good luck, Seattle. Like this, I'm probably going to watch it. How often are you going to see an MLS team play a team like Atletico or PSG in a competitive match? But
it'll be favorable times because it's here in the U.S.
Right. That feels rough. Like you look at the only other group that might have been harder is if they landed in the group that had Manchester City and Juventus. But I mean, it's all
pretty rough, and it'll be well attended. A lot of people will be out there, and it's gonna be pretty cool.
It is rough, but also then you look at like Miami, and you're like, all things like Porto from Portugal, they're a good team. Palmeiras from Brazil, they're a good team, but they're not Man City, they're not PSG, they're not Atletico, and then they also got Al Ahly FC from Egypt. So I'm like, okay, FIFA. We all know what you're doing. You're trying to put Miami in a group that you think they can reasonably make out of because you want Lionel Messi to be in this competition as long as possible. And you don't want Seattle in it. I'm not trying to be, Seattle truther, but they don't probably care about Seattle because nobody outside of MLS will care. I just think it's interesting that Miami gets a relatively easy group and they avoided Bayern Munich and they avoided PSG and they avoided Chelsea and they avoided, Milan and like all of these Dortmund and City and Juventus, Real Madrid. Yet Seattle ends up with two of them. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
It's pretty wild.
Putting my tinfoil hat on there a little bit. So,
hey, when does this thing kick off?
The FIFA Club World Cup?
Yeah.
That is a great question.
Found it. June 15th to July 13th.
It's that far away?
Yeah.
Dang. So is Seattle not going to be in Leagues Cup then probably? Does everybody play in Leagues Cup? I don't even remember. I think so.
Well,
but they talked about changing Leagues Cup, or they've floated the idea of changing Leagues Cup so that not every MLS team and not every Liga MX team plays in it.
Interesting.
Which at that point now you're just turning Leagues Cup into kind of a worse version of the Open Cup, just the Mexican teams. So I'm curious if Seattle, if they have FIFA Club World Cup games when Leagues Cup would normally be, if they're not going to be in Leagues Cup at all. Same with Miami.
That's possible.
We'll see. It's just so funny seeing the Seattle Sounders in a competition with Bayern Munich and Manchester City and Real Madrid and Juventus and Dortmund. But
it's it's going to coincide with Gold Cup and Club World Cup, and it's
this is a Gold Cup year. That's right.
It's interesting. It's going to be quite the summer of soccer.
Summer of soccer.
Despite the scheduling conflicts, I mean, it's confirmed it will be playing.
So,
but they are considering a different format with only 18 MLS teams, like you said,
for Leagues Cup,
and all 18 Liga MX teams. Yeah.
Well, should be interesting. But you got anything else for our listeners? I mean, we went a little bit longer than I thought we would, considering the minimal Sporting KC news.
Yeah, no, man, I don't. This is it. This where we're getting into off-season stuff. Don't know if we'll, come back weekly or bi-weekly. We'll have to see see if there's anything to talk about. We know
we'll be off the week of Christmas for sure.
Yep, and probably even double that and take the New Year's week off too. You know what I mean? That's
likely.
Everyone else in the world does that shit. So.
Yeah. Unless something crazy happens and we hop on for a brief time to talk about a new signing or whatnot. If there's a major signing, maybe we'll hop on and we'll just do a quick episode. Let's just talk about the signing.
I do want to thank everybody for, everyone that does listen to us and wasn't like, oh, sporting's bad. I don't want to listen to a podcast about a bad team. But the people that were here, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, thank you for being here. It's really cool to be talking about this stuff and know that someone gives a shit about what two jokers have to say.
Yep. It's awesome. Thank you all so much for listening. As always, like Dan said, we really appreciate you. Leave us that 5-star rating and review. Let us know who your dark horse is for MLS season next year. Let us know, what your experience was with the club and your thoughts on how things went this year and what you want to see different both on and off the field for 2025. We'd love to hear from you as fans and sort of bring some of the fan voice out to the forefront a little bit. But you can do that in a 5-star rating and review. You can do it on social media at NoOtherPod, at Dan Kooser, at JCMac03 across the platforms. You can send us an email, nootherpod@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment in our YouTube videos, KCSN Soccer on YouTube or via the Kansas City Sports Network app. But until next time, he's Dan. I'm Jimmy. We'll catch y'all later. See ya.
Galaxy has 6 MLS Cups.